So we get a ton of questions asking us, hey, Admiral Tim Cruise, are cruises worth it? Or do they suck? Are cruises boring? Should I book a cruise? Is this the best value for my money? Here are some of the answers you've been looking for about the pros and cons of cruise vacation, what sucks, what doesn't, and what is amazing. Pros, cons, positives, benefits. And you know me, it's always the truth. So strap in and listen up.
So today, let's tackle a topic that divides travelers of all ages and sizes, cruising. Are cruises really the ultimate vacation or a one-way ticket to Sucktown? Let's dive deep into the reasons why some people find cruising less than thrilling. So there's the reputation of cruises. I'm sure you've heard your own stories before. There's the positive view, where some people see cruises as the epitome of relaxation and convenience and also cost. Since it's all inclusive, theoretically, you should be able to pay one price and you're done. You have your transportation because the cruise ship takes you to different places every day. You have your meals covered either through the buffet or the main dining room. You have your entertainment covered and you have your hotel covered. You have a place to sleep every night. So, you know, it really is. If you think about it that way, it's a really, really good deal. And that's why we have cruised so often. There's no other, even an all-inclusive situation in a hotel or something, you still got to get there. Then you got to travel around. If you want to see the area, it's kind of outside the gates of the all-inclusive resort. You're stuck at the same place for several days. So that's why cruising makes so much sense to the people who appreciate it. But then there's the negative side of it. So they are endless buffets, some of which can be particularly nasty. Some of the food can be kind of rank and ratchet and all those other negative words. I didn't make them up. I have experienced it. Yeah, we've had some nasty buffets. We have been in situations where we've got some mild food poisoning from buffets, from it not being stored correctly. There's been ships who have been cited. Actually, we were on one. We were on an MSC ship when they were cited for improper food storage. Fortunately, on that one, we did not get sick. And MSC has really good pizza. So if you haven't tried the pizza on MSC, it's probably the best on the sea. It's not that microwave stuff that some of the other cruise lines do. This is like legit pizza by Italian pizza bros that they brought over from Italy. It's for real. So talking about that, I'm so hungry, right? I really want a piece of pizza. And there's obviously the cheesy entertainment. And we have seen a lot of the cruise ships are cutting their budgets for entertainment. Why? Because they realize it doesn't matter. You're a captive audience. You're going to come see the darn shows whether they suck or not. So why spend a lot of money on them? Why pay for the licensing of a Broadway musical or a Broadway show when nobody cares? You can just put your own on and people are going to sit there anyway and probably love it because there's a really low bar because most cruisers aren't really great judges of entertainment if you think about it. We'll talk about that more later. So they do have that captive audience, not for timeshare pitches, not really timeshare pitches. It is more of future cruises. So you don't really own anything there, but they want you to come back and cruise again. We'll talk about that as well. Now, here's the thing. You go on a cruise and your first time, you wake up to that ocean view, like nothing around. It's open sea for as far as you can see. And it's beautiful. It's exciting. It is relaxing and novel. Now, the first cruise, right? And maybe 3-4 days into it, you get tired of the same view, but you can walk around the ship and there's things and places you haven't discovered yet. And some of these mega ships too are crazy. You can actually go an entire week and not see everything on the ship. So there's that. So the first time you cruise, it's amazing. Oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And then the second time, well, you know, that ocean view and the sunrises and sunsets and the endless horizons are still enjoyable, but it's not as exciting. And then your third, fourth, fifth, 12th, like us, 80th cruise rolls around. And there is a strange sense of normalcy. It's no more novelty. And it can turn into monotony and you end up getting bored. I know it seems impossible with so much going on, which we'll talk about in a minute, but you know, after your third cruise, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I've done this. Even if you change cruise lines, we started with Carnival, went to Royal Caribbean, got diamond status there, moved on to Norwegian, and we're doing Celebrity. And, you know, it's a lot of the same thing. Everybody's got a buffet. Everybody's got a dining room. They've got the same low-budget entertainment with few exceptions. There's a few shows that are really good. But for the most part, it's kind of the same thing over and over again. The only thing you could really change is your itinerary, which is what we did when we went to Europe last year instead of cruising in the Caribbean. But, all right, let's keep going. So, yeah, some people call it, this guy told me it's like Groundhog Day at sea. So, have you ever seen the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray? You know how it works. I don't want to explain it to you. He kind of wakes up every day. He repeats the same exact thing day after day forever until he gets it right. Only on a cruise, there's no getting it right because you get it right the first time. So they have trivia, which is also very popular in old age homes. And you'll hear me make that comparison several times during this presentation. So the trivia games become repetitive. You begin to hear the questions over and over again. It's the same question. There's only so many trivia questions, people, especially when you go back in the past, like the 80s music and 90s music, 2000s music, even further back than that. It doesn't change. You know what I mean? The trivia questions stay the same. So if you've done Trivial Pursuit or if you've done trivia in an old age home or in your local community, you've probably heard a lot of these questions before and you'll probably do really well. The problem is when you win a trivia competition, the big prize seems to be a keychain. Now, I'm going to stop there because it's a keychain. There are no big prizes for trivia on cruise ships, regardless of what you think. Nobody gives big prizes away. Why? Because they don't have to. No one cares. They're all drunk. Bingo. How many times can you freaking play bingo? And how many times can you hear those old, worn-out jokes about the numbers? You know what I mean? Your grandma plays bingo. There's a reason. She's sitting around waiting to go on to the big mansion in the sky. You know what I mean? She's got nothing better to do. Why not just play bingo and try to win $5? You know what I mean? So, and then the Vegas, they call them Vegas style shows, but Vegas is much more progressive and exciting, and their shows are night and day. Vegas is so much better than anything you're ever going to see on a cruise ship. With, again, very few exceptions. There are some pretty good stuff that Royal Caribbean's working on now. MSC has one show that's really good. The rest of them, don't even bother going to that theater. You're going to waste your time and not get a drink. So Groundhog Day at sea is actually a really good way to put it. It's the same thing over and over again, each day, every day, and it gets worse the more times you cruise. So some people say that being on a cruise is like being at a business meeting that never ends. And not a business meeting with the good people, a business meeting with the really bad, boring people that the guy with bad breath all the time, he always gets right up in your face because he can't hear and he assumes you can't either. So he's, just spreading those nasty germs that, oh my God, you know what I'm talking about. So extroverts, they love this stuff. Why? Because a lot of them are salespeople or they're in some kind of field where they just talk for a living and just spew endless word barf about things that don't matter. People who like to hear themselves talk. You're going to find a lot of these people on here, and good luck shutting them up. You almost have to be rude and walk away, and I've done that several times, and I don't care. I'll never see these people again. But, they hone their lying skills with new prospects, and guess what? You're a new prospect. So they've never seen you before, and they're going to try this lie on you, and they're going to see you eat it up, and they're going to go back home and sell roofs and never put them on. So those type of people are on cruises. And then there's the introverts who might find it kind of hard to participate in these group activities, in the trivia, in the bingo, in the dance, the dance lessons with all these drunk people. And then a lot of times you go to the main dining room, you get sat at a big table with a bunch of strangers. If you're a small group, if you're 2 or 3 or 4, you might get sat at a table with 8 people, and then you're forced to have small talk with them, whether you like them or not. Hopefully you like them. We've met some very nice people on cruises, but we've met some people who are utterly draining. So hopefully you're in the middle of these two polar opposites, but you get the drift, right? The business meeting that never ends. And there are space issues on cruise ships. Now, there's confined spaces. Now, even the biggest ships, big ship means more passengers. So even though you have more physical space, you've got more people taking up all that space. Believe me, they're going to try to squeeze every nickel on these cruise ships, ladies and gentlemen. So it can feel really crowded. Even when we were on Icon of the Seas, one of the biggest cruise ships in the world, it felt crowded at times in some areas, especially at the pool areas and always at the bar. Good luck trying to get a drink anywhere. Seems they curtail the number of bartenders to try to kind of put the brakes on, especially if you have a drink package, which really makes you upset. It's supposed to be unlimited drinks, but good luck getting there because there's 20 people ahead of you. You know what I mean? And then there's long lines for a lot of stuff. Typically not for food. The buffets seem to move pretty quick, but if you want to go on the water slides or ropes or all the other cool stuff, you're going to just get ready to wait in line. There's a lot of lines for the shows, too, especially if you don't have reservations or you don't have a suite. And sometimes you have to wait for elevators. You get that old lady that jumps on there with two people on. She keeps pressing the close button because she don't want you to be on her elevator. They're out there. People like that are out there. So there are space issues on cruise ships, no matter the size. And this is annoying, too, the constant bombardment with ways to spend more of your hard-earned money. So you will see an endless barrage of people trying to separate you from your money, trying to sell you spa treatments, specialty dining packages, drink packages, and all kinds of other nonsense. They're constantly promoting things. Oh, the gold by the inch, that's my favorite one. Or the cheap watch sale, where they've marked up these watches like 400%, and they're going to sell them to you for a supposed sale at 200% markup, or something you could go home and buy at Amazon at half price. The art shows, oh my God, what a rip. Don't get me started on that. I'm going to do a whole video on the art shows. I'm going to expose that soon, so we'll talk about that soon. Shore excursions, pressure to book guided tours and activities at each port. Now, I'm torn on this because the first time I visit a new place, I like to do a guided tour. And I like to do a ship-sponsored guided tour because if something goes wrong on that tour, number one, the ship's accountable. Number two, if you don't get back to the ship on time, they're going to wait, but only for ship-sponsored or ship-sold excursions. So I like the safety and security of those, but only the first time I go somewhere. And the second time I'll venture out on my own. But they do sell these things. They are much more expensive than a tour you can buy on your own, and they're constantly trying to sell these as well. But a lot of times these are sold out. So it's really good to buy these in advance. So they don't really bombard you on the ship, but it could happen. And shopping, oh my God, those onboard shops, those watches and whatever. It just annoys me. Now, here's another thing that sucks about cruises. The all-inclusive vacation we talked about can end up being a lot more than the all-inclusive price you paid. All right, so you have the advertised price, which now they include all the port fees and taxes. That's nice. You know exactly what you're going to spend. In a lot of cases, you can prepay your gratuities if you still do that. We did another view on why you shouldn't do that. But if you feel bad and you're embarrassed, then go ahead and prepay your gratuities. I don't care what you do with your money. Send me a check, too. I'll put my P.O. box at the end of this video. But so you have the advertised price, and then you have the drinks, because your alcoholic drinks and sodas are not included on most cruises. So if you like to have a beer or a glass of wine, you're going to pay a little bit extra for that, unless you're on Disney, and you think you get your sodas on the same cost, but the beer and wine is extra on Disney as well. And these are premium prices too. I mean, they're not cheap. They're not reduced because you're on the ocean and because they could buy them cheaper in Europe. You get passed on the full cost and the full markup. So drinks, you're going to have, if you like your wine and your beer and your drinks, then you're going to pay for those and you can't bring them with you. Specialty dining. So they have premium restaurants, they have Italian restaurants, they have Japanese restaurants, they have sushi bars, all kinds of specialty, which are really, some are really good, but you have to pay extra for these. They are not included in your cruise fare. So you tack that on to your all-inclusive price that you already paid. Excursions, never included on any cruises. So you're going to have to pay for these if you want to do that. Of course, you can just go, in most Caribbean cruises, you can just get off the ship, walk around the port, which is what we do now. Having been there so many times, it's just not exciting anymore. And we'll talk about that in a moment too. But if you want to do a guided excursion, a ship-sponsored excursion, you got to pay for that, and they're pretty pricey. And then again, there's the gratuities. So you have the prepaid gratuities, but then a lot of people they actually put envelopes in your room at the end of the cruise. So you can give extra tips on top of your onboard gratuities, which are already pretty generous, to your maitre d', to your waiter, to your room attendant, to other people that you want to recognize. And what happens with those, I am not sure. We're investigating that as well. But what we have done is we have removed our onboard gratuities wherever possible, and now we give the people who we directly interface with cash. And that seems to work a lot better. And a lot of people argue with us. They're saying, well, the guy behind the scenes who's washing the dishes, he's not going to get tips. Well, guess what? Newsflash, genius. He doesn't get tips anyway. He gets a guaranteed salary. He does not see anything from your tips. They are reducing the cruise line's obligation. We have some proof about this, and I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, and I'll let you know how we come up with. I haven't verified it yet, but I have a feeling there's something strange going on there. So the point is, the all-inclusive vacation, the price that you paid up front, can you cruise for just this price? Yes, you can, and we have done it. We have bought nothing else, no drinks, nothing else, and I will share that video with you soon. And it wasn't great, but it can be done. You absolutely can do this all-inclusive vacation, but in most cases, it's going to cost you several hundred, if not several thousands more than you already paid up front. All right, so limited time in ports of call. When you go to a port, your ship's going to dock at the port. There's some time for that. It's got to get cleared through customs, all this stuff. They got to roll their thing down, get their supplies on. And you don't have many hours, especially in some of the European destinations. We had, I think it was 4 or 5 hours in Gibraltar, and that broke my heart. There was so much in Gibraltar I wanted to see, but for some reason, Norwegian cut our port stops. And they could do that. They can change it last minute for whatever reason they want. And then there's the departure. It has a hard and fast time you have to be on the ship. It's usually like a half hour to an hour before the ship actually leaves, and they will shut the ship down. And if you're not on it, then it's going to leave without you, and you got to find your way. You find your own transportation to the next port or just go home. And there's actually some large fees for that. You can get fined for that, especially in United States cruises. And we'll talk about that in a different video. And this, unfortunately, the limited time you have in each of these ports, it's really difficult to immerse yourself and learn about the local culture. And somebody call it speed dating with countries, and that's a really good way to put it. You get a quick glimpse, but you barely scratch the surface. So the first time we'll do like an excursion, a ship-sponsored excursion, and then the next time, if we really like the place, we'll go back and we'll fly in there and spend a couple days. So you can't really see a whole lot on a cruise. How about tourist traps in the ports? Yep, there's a bunch of them there. You have a large passenger influx. And a lot of people who have been on, especially Caribbean cruises, they've been to Nassau before, they've been to St. Thomas and St. Martin. They've been there before, so they're just going to go into the port and walk around, which means you can have 5, 6 cruise ships in there, 15,000 people walking around. It's like a really thick group of people, like you're at a very popular concert. And it's hard to get a drink, it's hard to go in the stores, and it's hard to relax there. But you know, that happens too. It's no big deal. If you know what's coming, then you're ready for it. It's not that bad. And then there's pushy vendors. If you go into a store, they're trying to throw stuff at you. There's guys on the street there. Hey, you need to buy this scarf or whatever, $10. What? No, fine. Actually, we were outside the Vatican, which is really comical, and they're trying to sell blankets out there. And the guy's like, 10 euros. No, 5 euros. Okay, for you, 2 euros. No, okay, 1 euro. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want your skanked up dirty scarf. I don't want that. But you're going to run into pushy vendors in a lot of the ports too. So be ready for that as well. It's okay to ignore them. Don't be mean. Just walk away. Say, hey, thanks. No, thanks. Now, seasickness. This is another big suck of cruises. And a lot of people suffer from this. I used to do that. I used to get extremely nauseous on my first couple of cruises, almost to the point where I never wanted to go on one again. But then my doctor prescribed me a patch. I have a video that talks all about that too, the seasickness patch, the prescription one, and it did wonders. Even to a point, I took it maybe for about 10 cruises, and I didn't put it on my 11th cruise, and for some reason, my body changed, and I no longer got seasick. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen for you or anybody else. It's like this weird change of nature. But for some reason, I no longer need them. I don't get seasick anymore. And that's just, man, that was a gift too. Then I went nuts after that. But a lot of people can get nauseous. You can get dizzy. And of course, if you have the drink package and you're an amateur, a lot of cruises like Carnival, and I think MSC is now limiting unlimited drink packages to 15, which is ironic. Why don't they just call it a 15 drink package? They still call it unlimited. It's not really unlimited anymore, but a lot of amateurs will have a little too much, a little too fast, and end up losing a day of your cruise to a hangover. So don't do that to yourself. But yeah, that could be a big suck, especially for amateurs. Now, there's also bad weather on cruises, and this can cause seasickness even on people who don't get seasick normally. The outdoor activities can they can be limited by bad weather. If the seas are too high, they may cancel port stops. They've done that actually in the last couple of months, even on some of the cruise-owned islands, because the waves are just too high to dock there. It's going to damage the ship, and you don't want to do that. And also, obviously, you can't go to the swimming pool or do the outdoor activity, so everybody's crammed up inside the ship, and that can be big fun, too. I'm saying that sarcastically as I can. So there's that, and then the port visits, again, you could end up with canceled stops or changes to itineraries, and that makes people very angry. So that is a possibility. There's nothing you can do about it. How about disruptive passengers? You can have very loud neighbors. That's either, now remember, these are like steel floors, so you can have loud neighbors above you who will affect you by stomping on the floor. If you got little kids above you who jump off the bed, which happens a lot, you're going to hear this thumping in all hours of the night, and you're going to have a hard time sleeping or relaxing. Not that you spend a lot of time, you should spend a lot of time in your room, but there's that time that you want to just chill out, maybe watch a movie or just take a nap, and that makes it very difficult. And then you have your left and right. Fortunately, underneath you, you don't have problems. Or you could have a dining room or the buffet or something else above or next to you that can cause a lot of noise and disruption. So that happens, and just people can just sometimes be jerks. You have fighting couples, you have drunks over there, people playing their TV too loud way into the night, people slamming their doors. I don't know what the deal is with slamming doors, but people love to do that. Just walk in. Instead of holding the door behind you and just letting it close slowly, they'll just let it whip and it'll slam and the whole wall will shake through the entire hallway. So when I have people that do that, I pay it back. I go back out 2, 3, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning when I'm up, take my walk, and they're still sleeping. Guess whose door is slamming? Huh? You can have a little fun with that, right? And there's always inappropriate behavior. I'm seeing a lot more of this lately, especially fights. And this is really weird. I guess in my first 50 or so cruises, I saw a lot of drunk people, but they were fun drunks. They're dancing, they're singing, they're a little too loud, but they're not out to hurt anybody or do anything really stupid. But now I'm seeing a lot of fights on cruise ships, which is really weird. I saw a really bad fight on an elevator. I saw a fight on a stage, a comedian stage. So there's a lot of that going on too. And a lot of people are smoking marijuana on their balconies. You're not allowed to smoke marijuana on any cruise ship anywhere, but people are doing it anyway. And that stuff, they have the cheap stuff and it wafts into your room, gets in the walls, and you call somebody and they say they can't do anything. They can't find it if they're not smoking when they get there. It's just, so bad people can ruin your experience. So be ready for that. So I tell people to go as high as you can. Try to get the topmost floor you can so there's nobody above you. And if you can cruise in the suite class, if you can afford to do that, there's a lot less of that riffraff. But it does happen there too. And of course, inconsiderate passengers stealing chairs, but that's hopefully going away. I think Carnival and Royal Caribbean are starting to do something about that. And they do hog amenities, meaning people will sit at the bar and they'll just park there all day and keep going on the water slides, even though they've done it already, without giving somebody else a chance to do it. So there's that thing. There's always people. The people element can suck. How about lack of privacy? Limited personal space. Yeah, some of the cabins are kind of small and cramped. If you get a suite, you end up with a little bit more room, so that's nice, especially on longer cruises. 3, 4 days, I could do an inside room, but on 7 or more, I got to have something with a little more space. I need some breathing room. And constant interaction. You're always having people and staff all up in your place. You got people knocking on your door, your room attendant. Hey, if you're in a suite, the butler's coming by, your room attendant. Hey, you need anything? No, just let me sleep, man. Get out of here. So yeah, this can be overwhelming for some types of people, especially when you're trying to relax. What about the positive side? We got to talk about the positive side too. Structured activities. Some people love bingo. Some people love trivia. Some people have never played trivia before. What an eye-opening experience. You're going to lose because the other 100 people in that room have all heard the questions before, so don't even think you're walking over that keychain. And convenience, everything you need is on the ship. Remember, your hotel room's covered, your transportation's covered, your buffet, your main dining room, your basic beverages like water, iced tea, coffee, all included. That's nice. It's all there. There's even a medical department. Some ships have hospitals on them. They have arcades. They have shuffleboard. They have miniature golf, all kinds of fun stuff. So everything you need basically is available on the ship, and that's super convenient. And you can visit several places, as we talked about in one trip, and that's awesome. So what about the people who might not? Is this you? Are you the type of person who might not enjoy cruising? So if you're spontaneous, if you like to, hey, I'm going to get on a plane and go to the Riviera today. Well, you're not going to have that because everything's scheduled on there, and you can't change it. You got 4,000 other people on board with you. You can't do that. So it's structured. If you're the type of person who hates structured things, it's not going to work for you, People seeking deep cultural immersion. Your port visits are going to be too short. It's really hard to squeeze something into 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to see everything that you want to see. Like if you stop in Rome, or if your cruise starts in Rome and you're just there for a day, you really need 2, 3, 4 days. We spent 5 days in Rome and we didn't see everything. So, and if you're just there for a couple hours, you're just not going to make it. You see some highlights, but that's it. You're going to have to go back and do it again. And then people who avoid crowds, well, there's the social nature, including the people with the bad behavior. So those things are too. So now it's really a matter of preference. The people who love cruises enjoy the structured activities. They appreciate the convenience. They like visiting multiple destinations. 3 very powerful reasons to take cruises. Again, it's all inclusive. Everything's included, and all these benefits are here for the taking at a pretty affordable price. Skeptics, well, they want to be spontaneous. They want the deep cultural immersion, and they want to avoid crowds. So you have to figure out where you stand on these 2 ends of the magnet here. You want to be on the North Pole or the South Pole, wherever that is. So you got to figure out, can you deal with these things? Are these things that you will appreciate? Are these things that are important to you? Now, impact of ship size, we talked about that in a second. Large ships are going to have more amenities and activities. Why? It's more space, more places, more staff. They can feel less crowded for the most part as long as the weather's good. Really no big deal. You can go outside, plenty of open air spaces. There's actually a park on some of the Royal Caribbean ships, which is really nice. I mean, it's a terrible rendition of a park. They could have done much better job with their central park facilities, which I have wrote and told them several times, but they don't listen. But it's got like these big monolithic steel structures in the middle of it, which is kind of ruin it for me. But it's nice to be outside, and there's endless pools and outdoor sitting areas and outdoor bars and plenty of recreation and miniature golf and shuffleboard and all that stuff, ping pong. Virgin even has a boxing ring outside, which I still haven't seen anybody in. It's a little scary. But you do get less personal service because there's more passengers. The passenger to staff ratio is going to be smaller on the large ships. Now, the small ships are interesting. We've done several of these too. It is a more intimate experience. You will walk around the ship and actually see people twice. On a smaller ship, you have a much better chance of running into people and getting to know people and developing maybe lifelong friendships. You can access smaller ports. There are new limitations by a lot of areas, especially in Europe, that are limiting the size of cruise ships. They can't have so many passengers or can't be so many tons. I think Norway's doing some stuff where it can't burn fuel. It has to be zero emission, which is pretty much impossible at this point, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. And there are fewer entertainment options because the size is smaller, so that's fewer theaters and fewer music venues. So there are some trade-offs for smaller ships and some advantages to big and large ships. So you'll figure out really what you want to do. I recommend trying both and see which one you like better. A lot of people I know will just go on small ships now. They're not doing the mega ships, including me. I think I'm leaning that way as well. Now, finally, there's the environmental suck of cruising. And, cruise ships can produce significant air pollution. I think they're burning that heavy oil, and there's a lot of light natural gas, the LNG ships now. And they're a little bit better on their emissions, but still they're putting some stuff in the atmosphere. But it is thousands of people, so it's probably still better for the environment if thousands of people are going on a cruise, on one cruise, rather than everybody taking individual plane flights, you know what I mean? And there's waste management issues, which all that duty and all the wasted food, which really gets me is all the wasted food from the buffet and the restaurants. A lot of people don't eat stuff. They don't like it. They have to pull it every couple of hours. So there's a tremendous amount of waste on these ships. Some of it I understand they can. I don't know if they can put it back in the ocean. You let me know in the comments if you know more about this than I do. But I thought they could shred up some of the food and they feed it to the fish in the ocean. But I think a lot of it gets burned now. So there's that issue too. If you have a problem with environmental concerns, cruising might not be the way for you to go. Get yourself a backpack and start walking. So hopefully I've helped explain some of the pros and cons of cruising. Is it the best vacation deal? It depends. Really depends on you and what your preferences are. But now you've got something to chew on and something to digest. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know if you have any comments in the comments below. And we'll see you out there on the open seas.